Welcome back to CheatSheetPros.com, your source for sports betting, player props, and daily fantasy information. We're ramping up the videos in 2022 on YouTube, so make sure to hit the subscribe button below. And if you'd like to try out our cheat sheets, we have them in our free Facebook group on Thursdays. The link is in the description. For everybody that watched the video yesterday, you got our dog play of the day in Lehigh as a moneyline winner that hit at plus 200. And the other one we had was the Marquette-Villanova spread. And so we had Marquette plus 4.5 or money line. We liked them both, and they end up winning the game outright. So those were two bonus winners for the people that watched the YouTube video. So today I've got 4 college hoops plays, and I'm going to go over my process because that's the thing that people ask me the most is just, how I come up with the plays, what I do. So I'm going to walk you through my process of everything I've done right before lunch and how I came up with the plays. So one thing I want to do is I want to have our Vegas line on the college hoops cheat sheet right next to the consensus line, and what I'm looking for is a large difference between these two. So Gonzaga 22-30, when you get that high, it's not that big of a deal. If you like Zaga, everybody knows who they are. You can play them. But I'm going to scroll down through these, and we're going to identify some games that have differences. And then we're going to go ahead, we're going to take a look at where the money is, and then we're going to take a look at their game logs on ESPN. So I'm going to try to flip through this as quickly as possible and show you guys my process as well as the 4 picks that I'm going with today. So flipping down here, we got -7 to -3.8, not a big enough difference. -5, -1.5, not a big enough difference. So this one, -6.5 to -11. Now that's a pretty significant jump. Vegas has this at a 2 or 3 possession game, and we've got it as a double-digit difference. So that's one I want to look into. So USC over Arizona State is the first game that I'm going to mark down to take a look at. Looking at the stats here, USC is on the road, so anytime there are college teams, I want to make sure they don't drop off a cliff when they go on the road versus at home. So looking here, I like our advantage in the power rankings. Looking at our record overall versus home versus road, it's good. USC 6-1 on the road, they're 9-2 at home, so that tells me they don't have a big issue where they are struggling on the road. So we come over here. These are your against the spread numbers. I like what I see. USC is 5-2 on the road for 71%. And then Arizona State is 2-5 at home for 29%. So I like our advantage there. That tells me not to worry with USC being on the road, and Arizona State is not a great team. So that's a game we're going to look at. Now we're going to come back over here and we're going to start looking at our consensus lines again. The very next game, we've got -13.5. and then -22.8. So we could say 13.5 points versus 23. So that's a significant jump that I want to take a look at. And that is going to be St. Mary's at Portland. Once again, we're going to take a look at the road number. We have a huge disparity in the power rankings. We got number 20 versus number 229. So I really like that. And then looking at the records, the home road, they're 4-3 on the road. They've only played 7 games, but they do have 4 wins, so I'm fine with that. They're 11-0 at home, but they have a pretty weak schedule. Now, taking a look at the against the spread numbers, both teams are plus 65% or better against the spread, but you can see Portland, they're 9-2 on the road, but at home they dropped to 2-5 for 29%, so that's one thing to kind of note. For some reason, they just aren't doing as well in their home games. St. Mary's is 4-3, 57% on the road, so I'm fine with that. They are really good at home, but they're still plus 55% or better on the road, so I'm good with it. And then coming over here, you can see the adjusted rankings. We got the number 66 versus number 256 offense and a much better defense, so I don't mind laying the 13.5 here, although this is a game that I'm going to dig into. Now, you'll notice on a lot of my games, when we get in this 11 to 14 point range, I love doing the first half spread. The reason is if St. Mary's has a bad first half, we can always hammer them for the second half. And if they are up by 20 points at halftime, they usually let up in the second half and opens up the door for a lot of backdoor covers. So flipping around here, sorry, I locked my dog out and he is now barking at me. We got 1, 2, 20, 29. So that's one that's going to jump out at me. So -20 versus -29. We come over here. This is going to give us San Jose State, which I know from looking at games over the last month, they are absolutely awful, against Utah State, who's been a stud. So looking at the power rankings, we got 300 versus 34. I love that there. And then 7-13 versus 13-9. Now, I'll do the same thing at the team we're going against. So San Jose State is 6-5 at home, which is decent, but on the road they're 1-8. So that's kind of a flag for me. We're getting to face them on the road, so they are on the road, so we're gonna thump on them. And then Utah State's 3-4 road, 6-4 at home. Nothing really jumps out. Both teams 53-57% ATS. And then road home ATS about the same, so nothing really jumps out at me there. The line is around 20. Our line is 29, so we have it significantly higher. So this is a game we're going to earmark to look at. I love going against San Jose State. San Jose State on the road, even better. So let's flip down, see what other games jump out. So here's one, 13-22. So Murray State, Austin Peay, that's one that I would earmark and look into. Scrolling down through here, you can see this half. There's a space in there it didn't pull, so obviously the line is not a half, and we have it at -25. So that's one you'd want to go look at the Vegas line, see what it is. So 5-8, 11-15. You know, no huge differences so far. And then I'm going to just scroll down these real quick, make sure there's nothing else that jumped out at me. Wagner. Now this one does jump out. So it opened at 13.5. It's -14. Now it's up to, and our consensus spread has it at 24.5. So this is a game that I would probably want to look at. When we get down into these smaller schools that are ranked outside the top 100, there's a lot of risks, so you want to be careful. But Wagner is one that we'll look at. I don't know much about Central Connecticut, but we got number 110 versus 345. And we've got a 14-2 versus 5-17 record, so that obviously should jump out at us. And then Wagner 7-2 on the road, 7-0 at home, so they're good on the road. I really like this. They're 64% ATS and 67% against the spread on the road. This is a red flag for me. Central Connecticut is 5-1 against the spread at home. So that's one thing, but we'll earmark it. We'll take a look at the game. Scrolling down through the rest of these, there was only one more that I found, which I ended up crossing off because we were so far down the list. So that's the first thing I do on the NCAA cheat sheet is I look at our consensus line and break that down. Now the next thing I do is you can go to Vegas Insider, Sportsbook Spy, just go somewhere where you can take a look at the money, kind of see where the line's at, what it's doing. I will tell you that Vegas Insider and Sportsbook Spy, they have different percentages, so they're obviously pulling it from different places. So be careful if you're just using one. So I review both of them before the games start just to see if anything else pops up. So the first game I'm going to look at is USC. So I'm just, instead of scrolling, I'm going to type it in here and just pull it up so you guys can see it. So here we got the line opened at 6. It's now 5.5. We have 54% of the cash on Arizona State, but 89% of the tickets on USC. So we've got a little bit of difference between tickets and money. Nothing really jumps out at me. I like USC. What I'm looking for here is to make sure like 95% of the cash and tickets aren't on the wrong side, because then that would tell me somebody from USC got COVID, they're ruled out, they're missing a key player, and so then that will kind of red flag me to go investigate that a little more. So USC we like. And then St. Mary's, let's see if we can find them on here. So St. Mary's, Portland, open 14.5, still 14.5. 52% of the cash is on Portland, 65% of the tickets. It's early. Those numbers, anything 70% and below doesn't really jump out at me. So I trust my research. We like them. Now we're going to go look at Utah State. And Utah State right here. So we're going to pull them up. So they opened... I didn't mean to click that. So Utah State opened at 19. It's now -20. The first half line that I bet this morning was -12, so I still got that. 55% of the cash is on Utah State, 68% of the tickets, so that's fine. Nothing there really jumps out. Murray State, I'm going to skip them because I end up throwing them out. And then Ohio was one of the other games that I earmarked that I didn't get to go over. But what I want to show you on this one, and let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. And I forgot to go over this one. This was one of my plays that I missed. So let me scroll down here and find it. And I just happened to be looking across this. Let's find you, Ohio. Where'd you go? Ohio. Crap, I didn't write down where they were. So Ohio has a monster ATS for the spread. And that's what really jumped out at me. So that's what I was wanting to show you. Okay, here it is. Game number 15 on the sheet. EMU and Ohio. So when I was looking at this, you know, we had 16, spread 18. Didn't really jump out at me. But then I noticed EMU's pace was 37. And for some reason that got me to look at the over-under numbers here. Well, one thing that should jump out at you is EMU is a 63% overplay. They're 12-7 overall. On the road, they're a 70% overplay. They're 7-3. And I was looking at this. Well, Ohio on the road, 1-7, blah, no big deal. But look at home, 8-2 for the over. So they're at 80% overplay at home. So EMU 70% on the road, paired with Ohio 80% at home. The over is one game that I really wanted to look at. So looking at this game, you can see we've got 96% of the cash on the over, 93% of the tickets. So that's good. Public's very aware of that. This line opened at 38 or 138, and now it's 143. I bet it at 142.5 right before I started this video. So anything in that range, you are probably good. So, and then I think Wagner. I don't think we looked at them. Wagner was one of the other plays. 14-14, no money or anything coming in on it, so nothing to see there. So I didn't get any red flags looking at the money and the lines, trying to see where it's at. Now, the third step of my process is I'm going to go to ESPN.com and I'm going to look at the individual game logs for the teams. And once you go to the ESPN scoreboard, you can just type it up right here. So we're going to go USC, let it come down. You want NCAA men's. We're going to pull this up. We are going to click schedule over here. And then once we do, I'm going to take the game they're playing against Arizona State, and I am going to pull it up as well. Now, when we're looking at these two games, we've got USC. They've won 4 of the last 5. And then looking at this, what jumps out at me is they just played Arizona State right here at home, and they beat them 78-56. So that was significant enough. That 22-point win, I'm happy to lay the 5.5 or 6 points on the road, and that's pretty much all I need to see. They've lost 3 straight. They've had some tough matchups. That's fine. So let me flip over to the next game. I think my kids are coming in from sledding, and so my dogs are jumping around, so sorry if you get some background noise in here. We'll try to flip through this pretty quick. And then looking at St. Mary's, what I really like about this one, and I'll open up the next game on the other side. So they beat Pepperdine twice. So they've been winning their games pretty easily. 81-57, 83-51. The toughest game they played was on the road against a really good San Francisco team that'll be in the NCAA tournament this year, and they beat them by 2, so that's impressive. So when I come over here to Portland, I want to see Gonzaga. Of course, they lost that game. Pacific, they're a terrible team. So Marymount, they lost by 12, and then they played Marymount and beat them by just under 30 points. So that's all I really need to see right there to like St. Mary's. So I got it at -7.5 for the first half. I'm going to go with that. And then Utah State is going to be my next one. Utah State, we're going to pull that up. We're going to take a look at their schedule. And then I'm going to open up San Jose State over here. Just right-click, go to New tab, click Schedule, and then you can look at them side by side. So what jumps out at me, San Jose State, they suck. Look at this. Loss, 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 loss. They're getting killed. Looking at the schedule of teams they're playing, Wyoming's a good team. New Mexico's terrible. Air Force, UNLV, they're terrible. Fresno's a decent team. They got beat by 30. We were on this game. That was one of our plays there, was Fresno State over San Jose State. So looking at them just a couple days ago, I'm real familiar with San Jose State. And San Jose State is going on the road to Utah State. So Utah State's been kind of up and down. They had a stretch here where they lost 4 games. Now, Wyoming, they lost by 2. That's a tough team. Fresno State, they got beat by 6, 7 points. Boise State's a tough team. They lost by 3. So they had some tough losses in here. But then they've really kind of kicked it in gear. They beat San Diego State very handedly. They crushed Nevada, and then they crushed Air Force, and they just played Air Force. So Air Force beat San Jose State at San Jose State by 10, and then we come over here. And Utah State also played Air Force, but at home, and beat them 73-46. So Utah State does have a big spread. It's justified. I'm going to take the -12 first half and go for that. The line is a little large for a first half play, but I just don't see San Jose State staying in this game. So I'm going to take it first half, and then I can go after the second half if I want it. Let me go ahead and show you one more. You kind of get the idea of what I'm doing and what I'm looking into when I look at plays. There are so many college plays. There are days where there's over 100 games, and it's impossible to look at all of them. So I use the cheat sheet to really narrow down the ones that pop, where our statistical models are going to show differences, and then I'm going to go look at the games. So this is the last one I'm going to run over, is Ohio and EMU, the over. So this was a great against the spread trend that we had showed you on the sheet. So looking at this game, Ohio, they're 80, 85, 86, 74, 74, 87. So they're scoring a crap ton of points. What worries me a little bit here is the last 3 games, the opponents only scored 62, 63, and 53 points. But that's still putting them in the high 130s, low 140s number. And then you come over here, EMU's terrible, but they've allowed, so this was a 85-71 game, so that's pushing 150-ish. That's 155, another high total game. So they're playing in big total games, and they're doing decent scoring points. They didn't against Akron or Kent State, but they scored 71 here, they scored 85 here, and then 66 against Toledo. So we pegged this game about 150 is what I had it at. It opened at 138. It was up to 143. I got it at 142.5. So I was like, both teams scoring a lot of points, so I'm going to go with the over here. So just to recap, the 4 plays I have are USC -6, St. Mary's first half -7.5, Utah State first half -12, and Ohio Eastern Michigan over whatever you can get it at. I got it at 142.5. And then Wagner, if you want a 5th play, I don't mind them. This video ran a little long, so I'm going to go ahead and not look up the Wagner game, but you guys get an idea. So today is February 3rd, 2022. Good luck.